Maybe a long walk will teach your mouth some manners, Dad said, smirking, while Mom stirred her tea like it was a drum roll. The room laughed. Small, mean laughter that lands like gravel in a shoe. My 14-year-old Eva shrank into her hoodie, cheeks blotched red. I felt the air go thin, like the house had decided there wasn't enough oxygen for dignity and jokes at the same time. Hi everyone, my name is Avery Monroe, I'm 32. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. Here's the truth that stings first. Cruelty rarely announces itself. It wears family faces and uses household words. What do you do when the hands that raised you push your child down with a smile? Dinner sat congealing, the spaghetti sauce slicking over like a second skin. Dad waved his car keys. A little lesson never killed anyone, he said, eyes glittering with that old, private authority. Mom's spoon clicked against porcelain. Tap, tap, tap. A metronome for the performance. Eva had rolled her eyes earlier, said she wasn't a child, said respect is a two-way street. He was right. But in this house, rightness was treated like a bad haircut. Noticeable, embarrassing, punished. Don't, I told him, voice low. The porch light hummed behind me, a pale coin on the wall. It's always been our family's signal. On when we're waiting, off when we give up. I left it on. Dad's mouth curved. Maybe she'll learn to appreciate rides, he said, and the door swallowed them. My father, my daughter, the keys, the lesson. Time turned viscous. The dishwasher throbbed. The faucet dripped with courtroom patience. I wiped a marinara fingerprint off Eva's water glass and checked my phone. No text, no location ping. The porch light buzzed, and that coin of light seemed smaller, farther, like it was melting. 30 minutes. 45. An hour. A text finally bloomed from Dad, teaching respect. Don't coddle. I called. No answer. I called again. The call slid to voicemail, the way a curtain slides over a window before something shatters behind it. My screen blinked with Eva's location at last. A pulsing dot on a black map, pinned 11 miles from home, near a strip of county road I knew only from weather alerts and tire blowouts. The battery icon next to her name was a sliver, 3%. Outside, wind combed the hedges into nervous shapes. The porch light flickered, held, flickered again. I grabbed my keys, tasted iron, and told the empty kitchen, lesson over. Somewhere in the dark, a coin of light waited to be turned off, or turned on for good. The night air slapped my face as I sped down County Route 6, headlights carving thin tunnels through the dark. My hands gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles blanched. The only sound was the hollow tick of the blinker and the echo of my heartbeat against the silence. Eva's dot on the map flickered, then vanished. I whispered to myself, hold on, baby. Just hold on. When I finally spotted her, she was sitting on the curb, knees pulled to her chest, her sneakers covered in mud. The reflection of my headlights caught her tears before she wiped them away, pretending she wasn't crying. Mom, she said softly. He drove off laughing. Those words, he drove off laughing, buried themselves deep. I wrapped my coat around her shoulders. She was trembling, but not from the cold. Some tremors come from realization, the kind that splits childhood in half. Back home, the porch light still burned, a witness that refused to look away. I tucked Eva into bed and brushed the dirt from her knees. We'll talk tomorrow, I told her. Tonight, just rest. But I didn't rest. I sat in the living room, every sound amplified. The hum of the fridge, the sigh of the house settling. I kept seeing her on that road, the endless black stretching behind her. At 2:37 a.m. my phone lit up again. Glad she's safe. Hope she learned her lesson. I typed, deleted, retyped. Finally I wrote, she did. And so will you. Then I opened my laptop and started a new folder. Case file, Monroe vs. Monroe. I wasn't sure yet what I'd build, but I knew it wouldn't be anger. It would be evidence. The clock ticked, each second marking the moment our family stopped pretending love could exist without accountability. By sunrise, my printer had spat out the first 6 pages. Each sheet a quiet promise. And when the morning light finally reached Eva's room, I knew she wasn't the only one who'd be learning a lesson this week. By morning, the house looked the same, but it didn't feel the same. The air carried a tension so thick it clung to the curtains. Eva stayed in bed longer than usual, silent, her breakfast untouched. Mom texted once, don't overreact. You know how your father is. That phrase, you know how your father is, had been the family's excuse for decades. It meant he hurts people but don't make it awkward. I replied, yes. I finally do know. After dropping Eva at school, I drove straight to the county courthouse. My shoes clicked on the tiled floor like punctuation marks. Calm, deliberate, final. I asked to speak with a legal clerk. The woman behind the glass window squinted. What's the nature of the issue? Child endangerment, I said quietly. But it's complicated. The man's her grandfather. Her eyes softened in a way that told me she'd heard too many stories just like mine. He handed me a form. Start with this. The truth has a paper trail. That night I began building it. I printed Dad's text, teaching respect. Don't coddle. The timestamp lined up exactly with the location data on Eva's phone. I attached the county map showing the spot she'd been dropped. I even downloaded the temperature from that night. 38 degrees Fahrenheit. Every detail mattered. Every line turned anger into structure. By midnight I had 12 pages. Evidence that looked calm on paper but burned like a wound in real life. When I emailed the first draft to a family attorney I'd found online, I hesitated before hitting send. A part of me, the old part, still whispered that family means forgiveness. But another voice, quieter yet sharper, said forgiveness without change is just permission. I pressed send. The following morning, Dad showed up at my doorstep, casual as ever. You embarrassed yourself last night, he said. I looked him dead in the eye and whispered, not yet. But I'm just getting started. Behind me the printer whirred again, spitting out another copy of the truth. Dad didn't flinch when I said it, he just gave that same smirk I'd grown up hating, the one that always meant you'll cave eventually. He stepped inside without asking, his boots leaving small wet prints on the tile. Where's Eva? He asked, scanning the living room. At school, I replied. Where she should be, safe. He sighed like I'd just inconvenienced him. You always were dramatic. I was teaching her that life doesn't hand out respect. You earn it. She's 14, I said, voice flat. You left her on a road surrounded by fields and fog. That's not a lesson. That's neglect. He crossed his arms. Don't start using big words from Google, Avery. That tone, patronizing, sharp, used to silence me. Not today. I opened the folder on the coffee table, papers neatly stacked. You'll want to read these before you say another word. He glanced down, scoffing, until he saw the heading, Preliminary Report, Minor Endangerment, Monroe Family. His smirk cracked. You went to the police? No, I said. Not yet. I went to the law. His mouth opened, closed. You destroy your own parents? I'm not destroying anyone. I'm documenting what already exists. The clock ticked. The aquarium filter hummed. The same silence that once made me small now made him shrink. Mom appeared at the door moments later, breathless, eyes darting between us. Avery, stop this madness, she whispered. We're family. Then act like it, I said. She reached for my hand but I pulled back. Her perfume, that powdery scent of denial, filled the space between us. You're going to regret this, Dad said quietly. Maybe, I answered, but at least it'll be mine to regret. He left the house slower than he'd entered. When the door clicked shut, I realized I was shaking, not from fear but from release. I turned toward the window, the porch light still burning, unchanged since that night. For the first time it didn't feel like a waiting signal. It felt like a boundary. 2 days later the silence turned strategic. No calls. No texts. Not even Mom's guilt-laced messages. It was their favorite move, the family freeze-out. Pretend nothing happened until the one who spoke up feels crazy enough to apologize. But I didn't bend this time. I spent those 2 days gathering more screenshots, timestamps, bank statements. The attorney I'd emailed called me back. Avery, she said, I reviewed your file. What your father did qualifies for a formal report, but given the family connection, I suggest something civil first. A legal notice demanding acknowledgement and corrective measures. Her tone was practical, but I heard the subtext. Make him see consequences before a courtroom forces them. That night I wrote the letter myself. Each line was factual, but every sentence carried the pulse of years I'd stayed quiet. To Mr. and Mrs. Monroe. On date. You endangered a minor under your supervision. You have shown no remorse or accountability. I am requesting a formal written apology and acknowledgement of wrongdoing within 10 business days, failing which legal proceedings will follow. I printed it, signed it, and slid it into an envelope. It felt heavier than paper, like history folded in half. The next morning I mailed it certified, tracking included. When the postal clerk stamped it, she smiled politely. "This one's important, huh?" "Very," I said. "It's the last letter I'll ever send them." That afternoon, Eva came home from school quieter than usual. She handed me a note from her counselor. Apparently she told them what happened. "They said if I ever feel unsafe again I can call them," she murmured. I pulled her close. "You did the right thing." She looked up at me. "Will Grandpa get in trouble?" I paused, then said, "He'll get something better, he'll get accountability." That night I watched the tracking number update. Delivered. Signed by Art Monroe. Somewhere in their quiet kitchen I knew they were reading my words. And for once it wasn't me sitting in the silence, it was them. 3 days later the reply arrived. Not handwritten, not emotional, just a typed letter folded too neatly. The envelope smelled faintly of Mom's lavender drawer sachets, like she tried to soften the edges of the truth. "Avery, we are saddened by your reaction. Your father acted in frustration, not malice. Family shouldn't air private matters publicly. Please reconsider before you cause permanent damage. Mom and Dad." There was no apology, no responsibility, just another attempt to paint accountability as betrayal. I read it twice, then placed it in the same folder as everything else. Documentation wasn't revenge, it was armor. That night, Eva came downstairs while I was highlighting sections of the family neglect statute. She leaned against the wall. "You're really doing this, huh?" "I have to," I said. "If I don't, it tells everyone it's okay to treat you like that." She sat beside me on the couch, pulling a blanket over both of us. "Grandma always says you're too strong for your own good." I smiled sadly. Then she finally got something right. Outside the rain began again, soft at first, then heavier, steady, cleansing, relentless. The next morning I drove to the attorney's office downtown. The building smelled like paper and resolve. We went over every line of the draft filing. Petition for civil accountability, negligent endangerment of a minor. "It's strong," she said. "This could go public. Are you ready for that?" I looked out the window at the courthouse steps below, gleaming wet from rain. I stopped worrying about how I look when my daughter learned fear from her grandfather. She nodded. "Then let's proceed." By the time I left, the clouds had started to break, the sun bleeding through in cautious streaks. I drove home with the radio off, thinking of all the times my parents had said we did our best. Maybe they had. But best means nothing when you use it as a shield against the truth. That night I tucked Eva in, kissed her forehead and whispered, "We're safe now, and safety doesn't need permission." The hearing date came faster than I expected. A short civil proceeding. No jury, no cameras, just a table, a judge, and 3 generations of the same last name sitting in a room built for truth. Mom wouldn't meet my eyes. Dad sat upright the way he always did in church or board meetings, chin lifted as if posture could substitute for integrity. His lawyer, a younger man with too much confidence, tried to open with charm. "Your Honor, this is a misunderstanding between family members. There's no criminal intent." But intent wasn't the point anymore. The point was consequence. My attorney handed over the files. The texts, the location history, the time-stamped weather report, even the mileage on Dad's car that matched the distance to where Eva was left. The evidence spoke in the same calm tone I'd practiced for years. When the judge finally looked at me, her voice was steady. "Mrs. Monroe, what is it you hope to achieve from this?" I took a breath, the kind that shakes old versions of you loose. "Accountability," I said. "Not money. Not revenge. Just acknowledgement that what happened wasn't discipline. It was cruelty." The room went still. Even Dad's lawyer lowered his pen. The judge nodded. Noted. When it was over, the ruling wasn't dramatic. Just a set of signatures and a statement entered into record. Negligent endangerment, substantiated. A protection order followed, formal and quiet. Outside the courthouse I looked up at the sky, sharp blue, endless. Mom lingered near the steps. "He never meant to hurt her," she whispered. I met her eyes. Then maybe he should have thought before he did. For the first time she didn't argue. She just nodded, tears catching the sunlight like glass. That evening Eva and I baked a cake. Chocolate, unevenly frosted, a little messy, but ours. She blew out the candle and grinned. "Can I make a wish?" "You already did," I said softly. And it came true. Weeks later, the house was quieter than it had ever been. Not the uneasy quiet that hides tension, but the kind that comes after a storm finally empties the sky. The porch light, my silent witness through every sleepless night, glowed warm against the siding. This time it didn't feel like a warning. It felt like peace. The court's order was final. Dad's lesson had been recorded in public record. His name printed beneath words he could never charm or rewrite. Negligent endangerment of a minor. The irony wasn't lost on me. The man who once prided himself on teaching respect now had to learn it from a judge. Mom sent one last message. Your father's angry, but I think deep down he knows you were right. I hope you can forgive us someday. I read it once, then deleted it. Forgiveness wasn't the same as return. Some bridges aren't meant to be crossed again. They're meant to be admired from a distance as proof that you survived the fire. Eva stood in the doorway, hair still damp from her evening shower, holding the photo she'd once kept of my parents on her dresser. Can I throw it away? She asked. I looked at it, smiling faces from a time I used to call safe. No, I said gently. Put it in the box with everything else. We don't erase the past, baby. We just stop letting it control us. She nodded, slid the picture into the box and taped it shut. The sound of the tape pulling free was strangely satisfying, like sealing a wound that had finally stopped bleeding. We stepped outside together. The night was cool, soft. Crickets hummed like forgiveness in a language only peace understands. Eva slipped her hand into mine. Mom, do you still love them? I stared up at the dark horizon and whispered, I love the lesson they taught me more than the people who taught it. She smiled, leaning against my shoulder. Inside the house, the printer's light blinked once. A single green glow before shutting off completely. The case was closed. The silence was earned.